Doing it? We're doing it?
Yeah.
Alright, we're doing it. Alright, hello and welcome back. Uh, Something that Darian and I have been very passionate about lately is just how people respond to anything in Pokemon nowadays, right? Anything? Just about anything at this point, right? If it's not a blade of
Okay.
grass, it's a battle mechanic, and if it's not something as big as a battle mechanic, it's, just anything, bro. Dick writing old games, anything. At this point, it feels like people don't even like Pokemon. They more enjoy talking about how much they don't like Pokemon. So I thought that we'd have a nice little discussion, since one very big thing that's been coming back every time they introduce something new, people are once again talking about how much they want Mega Evolution to come back into the game. And that takes up a lot of space for genuine criticism and genuine discussions about these games and its new mechanic. So, I thought I would compile a bunch of stuff from when Megas were first revealed, because the truth of the matter is, Mega Evolution has always been something that was contested before people got to actually play it. And even after people played the game, you've always had these people that just didn't like the mechanic. Same thing goes for Z-Move, same thing goes for Dynamax, same thing's going to go for Terastallizing. But the problem is this sudden nostalgia for when all of this trend began, which is, to me, is mind-blowing, because I specifically remember a lot of people didn't like Mega. So today we're just going to talk about how people have been reacting and how similar it is to what's going on now with just every aspect of Pokemon. It's gotten a lot worse. So here, Darian, I have my list of 4 things that are just important to keep in mind about Pokemon that a lot of people will otherwise contest me on. So first, we obviously believe Pokemon could be better, right? You agree with that statement?
Yeah, definitely. Like, we're not in any way just blind Game Freak defenders. Like, these are kind of blind Game Freak haters. If you hate to plug stuff, but if you watched our BDSP review, we do have negatives towards the game, but the negatives that we're going to go into today seem rather unwarranted. But we have definitely been critical of the things Game Freak has done, such as the poor online and just some other things in general. But yeah, it's not perfect. Definitely not.
Definitely not. So my 3, which I think are the obvious 3 that everybody should have at some point talked about. Harder difficulty. Not every Pokemon game has the same difficulty. Every Pokemon game is a different difficulty, in my opinion. Some are way easier than others, some are harder. The 2 biggest examples would be Black and White 2 and Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon. Probably the hardest games we've ever gotten. And in case you haven't noticed, one of those is a Gen 7 game, the other one's a Gen 5. So there's a lot of people who often go ahead and they say things like, oh, old Pokemon was so much better. It's just not true. Old Pokemon was easy, we were just babies, we didn't know how to play the game. I used to struggle famously against Norman as a kid. It took me many attempts to beat him the first time. And everybody has a story like that, whether it's Whitney or just some random gym leader that they specifically struggled against. Pokemon's always been an easy game. It's just that we got better at it. Second thing is better graphics. That doesn't need to be said. Everybody agrees that every Pokemon game should look better than the last, and that has been the trend. But people still don't want to give Pokemon credit for when they actually do increase graphics, for when the final product looks different than the trailer. They take the trailer at face value and they're like, wow, the game looks terrible. We did that with BDSP, and BDSP ended up being a lot more polished than the trailers. Finally, longer story or more side quests. The simple main game, post game just isn't enough, especially when the next games are going to have a lot more co-op. They already stated that there's going to be 3 main stories to the game, 3 major things that you can follow and do at your own will. That sounds really cool. That's something that I want to see. My second point is that modern Pokemon is still Pokemon. A lot of the screenshots that I saw, it just straight up said, Pokemon's dead, this isn't Pokemon anymore. Pokemon has changed every single generation. Gen 1 is objectively the worst version of Pokemon. It has the least going for it. There's a lot of things that have been refined since then. If your argument is that Gen 1, Gen 2, and Gen 3 were the best Pokemon, I might give it to you on Gen 3, because Gen 3 is almost to where modern Pokemon is. But those games just are incomplete, especially after you play newer games. Gen 2 introduces shinies, genders, breeding. Gen 3 gets abilities, Gen 4 physical special split, and so on and so forth. That was my number 2. That one's kind of obvious. Number 3. Most things that people complain about contradict each other. People have their own personal preferences for not liking something, but that does not mean that something is bad. What do you think of on that one?
Yeah, I agree. It's like just because you don't like something doesn't automatically make it like completely trash. Because like you said, everyone's subjective. Like I said, nowadays people want the megas back. As much as I talk about how much I want megas back, we'll definitely get into that later. But I mean, we want something new because, and I always say this all the time. Let's just do a role reversal. What if Game Freak never added anything? You would also get people who are like, "Wow, just not getting anything. It's just going to be another slew of megas and whatnot." And like, people have their own personal reasons for not liking something. Doesn't mean it's bad. Yeah, that just goes for a lot of stuff. One man's trash is another.
The main point there is that a lot of the complaints that we've seen have contradicted each other. A lot of those, but that's on Twitter. That's a whole other thing. But that just goes right back to the point that not everyone's going to agree on what makes Pokemon good or bad. And the worst part is we are all consumers at the end of the day. And no matter what new thing Game Freak shows us, we did not think of it. We did not anticipate it. We did not create it ourselves. That was something that they brought into our minds. That this is what Pokemon can be. Legends Arceus, loved by most people, more so than some of our more previous games, right?
Especially Sword and Shield.
It's the best Switch game we've gotten so far. Most people that didn't like Sword and Shield, didn't like BDSP, like Legends Arceus. And nobody thought that they would make or that they could make a game in a past version of a region. Nobody saw that coming. Right? But like I keep saying, they know what they're doing in terms of providing content. It's up to us to determine what is worth and what is not worth buying. That's all completely fine and fair. But the final thing that I have to say is we have all outgrown Pokemon. But we still love it because there's nothing like it. People might say that ROM hacks are as good, that, what do they call them? The RPG Maker games are just as good. People might say that Pokemon peaked at one point. You know, all those different kinds of complaints, no. Because at the end of the day, we will never experience Pokemon the same way that we did as a kid. And there is no other franchise out there like Pokemon. At all. It's not a thing that exists. People might create these different kind of like Pokemon-esque games, especially on mobile. There's a big reason why we hear about it once and then never again. Communities aren't really being formed around these. The developers can only do but so much before they have to move on with their lives. You know? It's fine if games that mimic what makes Pokemon good are better in the short term, but they're still not that beloved franchise that you grew up with, basically. In order for there to be something that, like, even Yokai Watch, a lot of people hyped that up back in the day because they thought that was going to be a Pokemon. When was the last time you heard about Yokai Watch? You know?
It's probably the most successful one of the bunch, too, because it spawned, I think, 2 sequels, but you hear games like Yokai Watch, Temtem, I know was a game on, like, PlayStation and PC, and there's just these other things. It's just that there's a reason, like you said, they don't take off, is because, yeah, they're like Pokemon, but Pokemon itself is just so different than all those. And there's probably things that those games do better than Pokemon, but there's a bunch of things that Pokemon will probably just do better than them. Like I said, it's a flip-flop, but like it's...
Yeah. And a lot of people that make these arguments are the older fans. Which is why it's important that I say we've outgrown the game. If the game doesn't give you anything that keeps you, it's fine to not like it, but you don't have to discredit what the games can do. Right? Like, I was literally just hanging out with someone earlier who never really actually played through Gen 7. Or let me say it this way. He's currently nuzlocking a Gen 7 game, and he was impressed by it. He was very impressed by the experience that he was having. And that's not something that he's going to end up playing Sword and Shield. He's going to emulate it. He's not going to go out of his way to buy the game. And he's going to give the game a shot for what it is. If it's not worth money for him, that's fine. Most people, especially when I see around leak season, before we just go on and just have fun with this I got here, right? The main issue that people on 4chan have is that they download the game as soon as the ROM's there. They emulate the game, they play through the game, and then they still talk about how much they hate the game. You know, you don't have to go through that much effort for something that you don't like. There's plenty of games out there. Yes, I want to say that at some point, but that's not the main argument that I want us to. Because it's not as simple as that. You know, if we ended up hating Gen 9, didn't buy it, we'd still think about it. We'd still miss the experiences that we had playing Pokemon. You know, you can't just invalidate people's feelings because they don't like something and they still force themselves to play it, you know? It is what it is. So, with all that out of the way, these are 7 to 8 year old comments with varying levels of replies. But this is before YouTube had a proper reply system, pretty sure. Because all these comments are like just completely disjointed, and I had to literally scroll through, going like backwards in time, reading conversations out of order to get these. But these are people's reactions to the Mega Evolution trailer, the first time that they introduced Megas, or one of the first trailers for Mega Evolution. Right? So what's gonna happen is I'm gonna read it. Terry and I are gonna discuss it. We're gonna go on to the next one, and we're just gonna rapid fire it for a good while. So first one here, 7 years ago. Now they're using Mega Evolutions as the selling point and overusing it. Shake my head. So this first comment was made specifically because obviously there were a lot of trailers regarding Mega Evolutions back then, and one of the things that Derry and I think I mentioned to you was that I miss like that peak X and Y. Once a month we knew we were getting a new trailer. That was a good time. Yeah. But now, even though Mega Evolutions were the selling point of the game, this guy's basically taken as a negative, which is fair. This is one of the more fair comments. Mm-hmm. As soon as I stop talking, go ahead and say whatever thoughts you have on it, and then we'll go to the next one.
Yeah, I can see why this is one of the least negative ones. Basically, what I'm getting from this comment is he thinks they're probably marketing Megas too much instead of what else is in the game.
Yeah.
I know they want to market the new things, but the thing is, if you go off the new things so much and you don't talk about anything else, like, well, what about some of the gym leaders, and what about this or that, and the new Pokemon, people might get skeptical. Now, back to what you said about the monthly thing. I actually don't know whether I prefer the monthly trailers or what we get now, because with Legends Arceus, they didn't show a whole ton of Legends Arceus at all. And I like being a lot more surprised to see what we're going to get, especially since, I mean, people get stuff and leak stuff all the time. And I try to stay away from it, but eventually sometimes you crack or you see something. But I definitely prefer the more secretive approach. And I know why people wouldn't like that either. Say, oh, what are they hiding from? This must be a bad game. Like, well, they just want everyone to be, they just want people to be surprised. But yeah, I can see why this is one of the,
it's one of the first ones I have.
More tame.
It's a rabbit hole, my guy. The next one, 8 years ago, Pokemon sucks.
Okay.
You know, I don't know if this guy's background was that he never liked Pokemon or he stopped playing after a while, but there's a lot of that as well. And I try to get a good variety of comments. Some of them were simple, some of them were a bit more, I should see, argumentative. But yeah, you know, it's good to address the fact that some people just don't like Pokemon. You know. So the next one, and this is something that I forgot. You're gonna feel a lot of nostalgia for these. Mm-hmm. The idea is cool, but it's basically a Pokemon going Super Saiyan. Y'all already know. DBZ did it first. Wish there were more new Pokemon, though. Thoughts?
I mean, just because... does that mean everything in all of media of someone getting more powerful is, like, based on Dragon Ball?
It's just Dragon Ball, bro. Dragon Ball. Dynamaxing? Dragon Ball did it first, man. Z moves, Kamehameha was already there, man. Sorry. But I mean, to their credit, DBZ is kind of a landmark series. But Fist of the North Star, you know, existed before that. JoJo's Bizarre Adventures existed before that. But yeah, this is another one of those examples where people let their minds wander a bit too far away from what media really is, you know. Media is not a series of original ideas that have never been told before. It's a series of stories being told with varying degrees of relatability and varying degrees of, you know, things that you recognize. I completely forgot that this and one other take that we're probably about to see were two of the most popular ones against Mega Evolution. And it all comes down to this idea that Pokemon ran out of ideas. So that's why they created this amazing new mechanic that has never been done before in the franchise. Because they ran out of ideas. Alright, here's another good one.
Yeah, and going back to the one where you're talking about like ripping off of DBZ and like they're just ideas. How much do you see that nowadays? If you see any open world game, the cartoon art style, it's Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild this, Breath of the Wild that.
Yeah.
Whether it's like Genshin Impact or Phoenix Immortal or Rising or whatever, it just goes to show people will keep those comparisons instead of saying, well, this is just their take on it.
Yeah.
Nope, it's Breath of the Wild. It's just Breath of the Wild.
And then the other thing about Breath of the Wild is that they specifically said that Legends Arceus was going to be that kind of game. And again, people love that game, and it's a good approach to take. You know, just because something does it first obviously doesn't mean that you're copying or you're copying with the intentions of being lazy. I think they could make really cool Mega Evolutions of underrated Pokemon such as Sunflora. This is why I highlight this comment. Yeah. But other than Mega Evolutions, the sprites of the 6th generation Pokemon aren't good at all. Just admit it. Deep inside, you all know most means not all, Pokemon of the 6th generation look horrible. Really, they could remove like the 30% worst looking Pokemon like Conkeldurr with his Burton Ernie nose and many more Pokemon, then the Pokemon games would be awesome again. This is a loaded potato. This guy has a lot to say. None of it, except for the Sunflora comment, makes sense. A Mega Sunflora would have been cool. And one of the really cool things about Mega Evolution is that it gave a lot of Pokemon that nobody cares about in Mega. And it gave a lot of popular Pokemon in Mega too. It was a good mix. The idea that the 3D sprites weren't good, it was a very common opinion. It's true in a lot of cases, like Marshtomp looked a lot cuter before Gen 6. But at the end of the day, the jump to 3D was just an inevitable. There was no way, there was no way that Pokemon was going to stay 2D forever. And it's very obvious because of the technology that they had. A lot of people say that Game Freak is lazy. Making 3D models and 3D assets for a game that's always been 2D, that's not lazy. That's them trying something new. Creatures. And we were able to get a lot more cool anime. Like, are you telling me that 5th gen didn't peak that art style? How are they ever going to make anything better than Gen 5 that looks like that? They're just not. Everything else is just going to look like Gen 5 at that point. You know, they hit a ceiling. The only thing to do is to keep moving forward and trying something new. Now, I do miss a lot of the older sprite work type stuff. That was my favorite in terms of, you know, what Pokemon looks like. That was the best time for me. Before Gen 4, I'm saying Gen 3 sprites were the best for me. It doesn't mean I don't like the way that other things look. But stating that we all know that the 6th gen looks horrible, man, this guy was saying that before Oraz, before we got Sun and Moon. You know, like, you know, a lot of people's opinions are very hard to take seriously in retrospect. And I think that's what's really important when you build your opinions, because you might like something or not like something in the moment, but you always will have to reserve that judgment for when the games are out, when it's been out for a while, when you get used to them. A lot of people weren't ready for anything that Gen 6 was doing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, anything else on that?
Other
than the Burton,
no, not
the
too
Burton
much.
Ernie
I mean, like I said, the first comment made sense. I definitely wish they gave it to more. I'm glad they gave it to like the popular Pokemon a little extra boost. I definitely prefer the non-popular ones. Yeah. Like I don't think Mewtwo needs 2 megas.
I mean, the whole reason Gardevoir became my favorite Pokemon.
Yeah,
it was up there.
Of course, I love the ones for Beedrill, Pidgeot, and Glalie. Yeah, definitely. Like it's just a nice little thing there. But and everything else, Burton Ernie knows that really threw me for a loop.
That was funny.
That was funny.
But yeah, so comments like this are wish fulfillment. It's Pokemon was perfect in my mind when it was this. So anything that's not this is ruining it for everyone, not just me, for everyone. It ruins Pokemon. And that's just not how, that's just not the kind of weight that you want your opinions to have. You want your opinions to mean something to you, and then let everyone else just sort of, go with it. Now, this is a funny one. They ruined my favorite Pokemon, Blaziken. Bad face. With Mega Blaziken. Because Mega Blaziken, there was like a Torchic with the Blazikenite, and that was one of our pre-order bonuses.
Yeah.
And that is hilarious. That's such a hilarious comment. Because Mega Blaziken looks very different. But it sucks that this person that was what ruined it for them.
Like I said, Megas are optional. You don't have to use Mega Blaziken. You can still use your Blaziken however you want.
Yeah, Speed Boost Blaziken is still gonna be broken. But Mega Blaziken is gonna be just as, if not more. And it does suck, but honestly there's only 2 games. And again, right, this is where the contradiction comes in, right? For this person, Mega's ending at Gen 6 might have been amazing for him. They might have moved on, they might have grown up, But imagine if we still had Megas and he had to see Mega Blaziken in every single Pokemon game.
This guy again.
Now all those opinions that Mega Evolutions should have came back, for this person that might not have been the case. He liked his basic KFC Blaziken. Alright, now are you ready for the most controversial Gen 6 take to ever exist? Digivolution was the first thing I thought when I saw this. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you say Digivolution? Tons. I'm talking half the comment section is arguing about Pokemon evolving like Digimon. I completely forgot that was like an entire thing. It's so huge. There's so many. I would have screenshot them all, but it'd be redundant. There are people arguing that Digimon came first, that Pokemon came first, that, it's a Digimon concept only, so Pokemon can't do it without being lazy and copying. That was a whole thing. I'm sure that anyone watching this that was around that time forgot about it too. But let's just, to put it in my own words, to settle this, doesn't matter. It never mattered. This conversation was a waste of time, but so many people got baited into it. Pokemon will always be more popular than Digimon. If you want to take it at a sales aspect, you can do that. If you want to look at it at an anime aspect, you can do that. The only thing that Digimon can do is tell more serious stories, for the most part. I mean, we've had episodes of Pokemon that revolve around Pokemon dying, but the thing about Digimon, it's a completely different thing. It should have never been the comparison for Mega Evolution, because Mega Evolution was just Pokemon trying to bring in a new mechanic. Just because that's how all Digimon evolve doesn't mean that Pokemon is somehow trash for doing it. I mean, we've talked about that.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on that? Because there's gonna be a couple more. There's probably a couple more.
I don't really know too much about. I just did a quick Google search. I don't follow anything in Digimon, and I don't really know how it works.
They have one anime going on right now. No game. The new game that came out has nothing to do with the new anime. The new anime has nothing to do with any of the other Digimon animes. It's its own thing. That's the level that Digimon's at. Meanwhile, we still have Ash Ketchum from Pallet Town in the Pokemon anime. He's still brand recognized, just like Luffy from One Piece, or Conan from Detective Conan. He's a legacy character. They never dropped him. They never had to change their core demographic or their core take on their series the way that Digimon had to. Digimon's just different. Digimon fell off. Sorry for people who get mad when people say that, but Digimon fell off a long time ago. So then we have. Wonder where they got that idea from. Cough, Digimon people, cough, cough. This is what people were thinking when Mega Evolution first came out. This is where they were. All right, let's see what this one is. Oh, this guy has a lot of comments, but I think this is the only one that I have that screenshot. Won't matter if they're overpowered. Knowing Smogon, they will get lazy and ban Mega Evolutions altogether because they don't fit their image of competitive Pokemon. Of course, nobody has to follow Smogon's rules. They aren't the official rules for competitive Pokemon, no matter how much they think they are. Thoughts on that one? I'm gonna go. I gotta go. While you talk, okay.
They're overpowered. I mean, first off, Smogon didn't ban them, and they're not overly overpowered, especially to some of the weaker Pokemon. Of course, like Beedrill went from PU to OU because it got a nice power and speed boost. But just like everything new mechanic, it's just like there's also ways to counter it. For example, Mega Garchomp gets a lot stronger but gets slower. Um, there's also some downsides. Like I said, you get slower. Sometimes you get a new type that gives you an extra weakness or two. Of course, some of the most used Pokemon were some of the Mega, especially in like the competitive VGC. You had Mega Kangaskhan and Mawile everywhere. But then one year didn't matter because I don't know what year it was. I think it was 2016. That was the year Ubers were allowed. And then it was just Primal Groudon, Kyogre, Mega Rayquaza, Mega Kang everywhere. So it doesn't really matter. And even then, you look back on it, there's Megas some people don't even bother with or touch.
Like Audino, for the most part.
And no one uses Mega Audino.
Mega Absol didn't actually see that much usage.
Yeah. Mega Absol, and then like of course you have your, like I said, your Lucarios and Metagrosses. I don't know if Lucario. No, I don't know if Metagross went to Ubers, but I knew Lucario went to.
Only a few did. But OU was filled with it. And my thing, in retrospect, right, that Gen 6 is what got me formally into competitive Pokemon, competitively login. I've never played more competitive Pokemon in my life. Like Gen 6 was the only time where I was playing that much Pokemon. And the thing that made Gen 6 competitive so cool is that you had this ace Pokemon up your sleeve. That's what Megas were at the end of the day. They were the ace in the hole, the win condition, something that you could draft the team around. You had that with every other generation of Pokemon, but there was such a big difference in the approach because of Mega Evolution, how impactful it was, because of how cool all these different like drafting your team and then adding in like a Mega Metacham and seeing how that changes up your entire team, or having like an Azumarill over a Mega Mawile, or having a Mega Mawile over an Azumarill, because they're both very strong OU Pokemon back then. Actually, Mawile might have been Mega Mawile was definitely.
It might have been.
Mega Mawile was definitely
for a bit, surely.
But yeah, and again, Smogon didn't do any of these things that they said. They tiered them properly, rated them like every other Pokemon, and again, I think that Pokemon truly peaked for a wider audience in Gen 6. I don't think there was any time before or after where people were diehard into Pokemon, into competitive battling. So many Pokemon YouTubers used to do constant tournaments, constant leagues in Gen 6. They didn't do it as much in Gen 7. They don't do it at all now, to the same extent. Gen 6 truly was the best time, other than Gen 5. Gen 5, for different reasons. Gen 5 was very popular because of the weather wars, because of how hard and dirty the rules were, how absolutely insane the strategies were. But then Gen 6 fixed a lot of that and then brought in a whole new meta that's more accessible, more interesting, because you don't have to think so much about what Pokemon we're going to build around. You would have this whole list of Pokemon where it's like, this is the ace on my team, this is the Pokemon I want to see sweep the enemies. So yeah, that's where we stand on that. But the point of this is that people's opinions and people's thoughts are usually before they actually get to see what the potential of something is, before they actually get to try things themselves. And that can be good sometimes, but in most cases, like a case like this, it just ends up looking silly 8 years later,
Can't give them too much flack, because this was a comment from 8 years ago. They had no idea they weren't going to ban them at all.
They had no idea. They had no idea what was going to happen. That's like that's like if the stock market was about to take off and you have this one guy saying, oh yeah, we're in the worst depression of our lives, it's never going to get better, our society is about to end. And then 2 years later everyone's a millionaire. Some crazy stuff that happened that he couldn't even begin to fathom. So this is another really cool comment. If they worked DLC into X and Y, it would be a huge turnoff for me as a veteran Pokemon gamer. And it would also make it rather unfair for people who can't afford the DLC, since all those stronger Pokemon will be available in the DLC shop. They're talking about, a lot of people have the misconception that because Mega Blaziken was a specific event bonus, that Mega Evolution in general is going to be a crazy system that's gated by DLC and gated by events and stuff, which obviously wasn't the case. That's not a problem for this comment. I'm more focused on the DLC part because it's really interesting. Leaving competitive play kind of unbalanced. That's just my thought, though. The DLC feature already failed in Mystery Dungeon Gate to Infinity, in my opinion, but for all I know, it could have sold well. Now, see, this is a good way to, throw out speculation. No absolutes in their comment. They're just thinking. But isn't it funny that all that time ago we were worried about DLC? And then when we finally got DLC, their approach was that you get access to all the new Pokemon outside of ones that obviously you have to go to that area to catch. So, for example, when they added the Crown Tundra and the Isle of Armor into Sword and Shield, yes, people had to pay to actually go there, but if there was a Pokemon listed there, it was accessible to you. You weren't gated off because of that. I think this is just a really cool comment to think about.
And another interesting thing is you can just always hop on Surprise Trade, and you know people will be hyped to send out the new Pokemon, and maybe you can end up getting without even paying for any DLC at all.
Right. But the problem would have been the Mega Stone stuff. But again, like, people were fearful for no reason about stuff like that. This, it is a good point to bring up because it's a very interesting thing to think about all these years later when they have finally tried DLC. And I don't think there's any problem with DLC. If there's a DLC and I don't want it, I can still transfer my Pokemon. And I know that I'll still have access to those Pokemon because the game will update anyways. It's just that I won't be able to go to those areas and do whatever the heck that is. I think it's a completely fair thing for them to do. Because they're not actually gating anything but like the actual experience itself. So maybe I wouldn't be able to catch the new Reggies or Calyrex, but I can have a friend trade them over to me and I can try them. Or, maybe they'll have a second copy that they're playing, and then they get to that point, and then they just catch it for me. These are all things that you could do. There's ways to go around DLC. So I'm actually really glad that when Game Freak eventually did do DLC, they found a cool way to do stuff that didn't limit players outside of the experience of, going to the Isle of Armor or the Crown Tundra, whatever. All right, let's see what this one is. We don't know every single change made, but they're heading in the right direction by changing the formula. It's a step in the right direction, at least. Your points are all good, but let's be honest, they aren't going to make huge changes like that all at once. But after seeing the way X and Y are panning out, who knows? Maybe one day those ideas will be implemented. I would love to see where this person is now and how they think about the franchise, because I think this is where everybody was. Mega Evolution was the next step in Game Freak's design for Pokemon. And a lot of the success that they have now is because they weren't afraid to add something to Pokemon. And, we might say now that we're a bit fatigued on all these new battle mechanics and they're just going to come and go. But, we've talked about it plenty of times. They've always done this where they have something new that they want to try and then they just leave it out the next game. It's just something that they do for the one.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on this one?
Just like that.
What are your thoughts on this one? You agree with this statement? Do you think this guy, do you think this was the general consensus back then with X and Y?
Yeah, seemed more maybe like a little cautious, perhaps. I'll give us. We're gonna make huge changes like that all at once, but it seemed the way X and Y probably would maybe. Yeah, it looks like, are they replying to someone?
Like I said, there were no replies back on YouTube back then in 2013. It was
like
the system wasn't the same.
It seems kind of out of context.
It is out of context. A lot. I mean, if there is context for it, I'll definitely have it. But this guy is just reading the comments similar to what we are, and this is them just responding to it.
Yeah.
The last part is what really got to me. Maybe one day those ideas will be implemented. I feel like, because for me, terrestrialization is something that I've always wanted in Pokemon, because they always had the Delta cards in the TCG, and you'd have like a Pikachu that's Psychic type, or you have a Rhydon that's Grass type, and it was really cool to think about. It was a really cool thought experiment. Galarian Forums started to do something like that, but I think this is exactly what I was looking for. I might have been wary about Megas. I might have been a bit concerned about Z moves, but we finally got to the day where one of the ideas that I wanted to see are finally implemented. I'm pretty excited about it. So again, this is me pulling a bunch of different kinds of comments, not just the negative ones, not just the bait ones, not just the obvious, like this guy just has no clue. This guy's out of his mind. I'm trying to be properly representative here so that when people see this video, you guys would say, oh yeah, you know, this all makes sense. I see where you're coming from. Yeah, people's opinions on Pokemon have always been kind of weird. You know, that kind of stuff. But that's that comment.
You're just all the negatives. We're all the positives. Everyone is included here.
And then we got Digimon Wannabe.
No, good lord. I'm seeing a pattern.
Digimon Wannabe. I'm telling you, half the comments complaining were Digimon, 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 Digimon. Alright, now this one, this is the one that you said was bait.
It has to be. I refuse to see it as anything else.
Why do Pokemon have to be stronger? I miss my poor old weak Pokemon. This comment was not responding to anything around it. I scrolled for a good hour past this comment. Like, if we look at the bottom of my screen here, right? I found this comment. This was just the beginning, right?
Yeah.
I did not see anything that this guy could have been talking about specifically. You know, why do Pokemon have to be stronger? And because Mega Evolution's key thing was Pokemon got stronger, right?
Yeah.
So obviously this guy could be saying, you know, I miss being able to use Plusle and Minun, but this guy might also just be saying, I like my Pokemon the way that they are. No matter how you say it, this guy's take is weird.
Like I said, these guys are talking like it's a requirement. You don't have to Mega Evolve if you want to keep a random Pokemon on your team. And they might be saying it because Gen 5 had hilarious amounts of power creep.
Yeah.
When compared, especially with the new meta and abilities and stuff, and the new Pokemon, there was a lot of power creep. But yeah, if you want to use Plusle Minun, Surskit,
Bullbeat,
go for it, bro.
Anything from Gen 2.
Knock yourself out.
I mean, like, there's a guy whose entire YouTube channel is just him battling people with, like the most unpredictable, yet strong, like, Pokemon. Like, this guy's done Magikarp sweeps. This guy's done, like, Rattata sweeps. Like, you know, any Pokemon can be good. Mega Evolution didn't make the game worse, which is exactly what it should have, right? If you think about it conceptually. This whole group of Pokemon, most of them being popular things like Charizard, Venusaur, Blastoise, get this massive power jump, and you can just go and wreak havoc on teams with them. You know, that just wasn't what happened. But yep, we get comments like that too. Yeah, all right, Pokemon and Digimon crossovers seem like they ran out of idea. Now what do you think when you hear them say they ran out of ideas? What's your take on that? I think it's complete.
Because they always come up with something new. I don't really like. It's a cop out kind of thing.
Right.
If anyone kind of does anything like we said earlier, anything similar, it's just that, and it's an absolute to some of these people. I'm like, I just don't know. It's very strange. Very strange.
I didn't like these comments in 2013, and I don't like them now. Like Pokemon and Digimon crossover. It's weird. But again, like I said, people are so nostalgic for Mega Evolutions now. This is how people were legitimately reacting to Megas. Now, I could have also gone a bit forward in time and tried to find a video where people were talking about Megas, but that would be really weird. It'd be really hard. I could scroll up, but if I scrolled up, I'd just get the kind of modern comments that we get now. And obviously, you guys can go and see those now. You don't have to have a YouTube video explaining the new comments. Although we will have another comment based video, probably with Twitter at some point. But today we're going to expose how much people really did not like the idea of Mega Evolution. And comparing that to how people still don't like new mechanics in Pokemon. It's never changed. It doesn't mean Game Freak's getting worse because more people are making this complaint. It's just that people want to complain, you know? Now, there was a very weird trend that you're going to see with some of these next comments where people were arguing. There was a specific guy arguing that the Nintendo DS could have ran X and Y, and that the 3DS is like this whole gimmick that nobody cares about. Nobody needs a 3DS, and they're just like Game Freak's just doing everything wrong. It's really weird. It's really goofy, but we're gonna get into that as we get there. So this guy is responding to that kind of comment. We'll see it later. Those direct comments. It's like hating Kokima for making, I think he means Kojima, for making Metal Gear Solid 4 for PS3 and not for PS2. In my honest opinion, it makes no sense. 3DS is not a newer version of DS. It's actually a major release. Newer games, newer consoles. It's always been like this. For the second part of the comment, you're doing the right choice. I don't know what that part is. And then this guy says they're hating on it because they can't adjust to change. Because game consoles come in generations. Been this way for decades. Eventually, the hardware needs to improve to run the improved software. A game with the scope and scale of Pokemon X and Y could not run on DS hardware. Thoughts?
I agree, honestly. With the vision they had, it just can't happen. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
Lumios would just look like Castelia City, I guess. Because Castelia was already really impressive.
Well, there's two ways that this could happen, right? They could stick to the black and white art style, and in that case, sure, they could have made. I mean, people have made Pokemon games from like the newer gens on a ROM hack for like Fire Red, Leaf Green, right? People can do that, but like you said, like on the scale of which they were doing it, it wouldn't make sense. To like make a whole make 3D models on a DS. That just doesn't look good. It never looked good. Even the 3DS could barely handle the kind of stuff that Pokemon was doing at the time. And I only bought a 3DS. I still have it right here. The same 3DS that my mom got from a pawn shop because Pokemon X and Y came out. I would have never gotten a 3DS otherwise because I'm a Pokemon fan first and foremost. I only have a Nintendo Switch because Sword and Shield came out. You know? I think it's really goofy. But we're going to get into it. There's more comments like that from the same person. We just haven't seen them yet because, again, I'm scrolling backwards in time, not forwards. Alright, here's another one. It's okay they come up with these ideas, but they should have just changed the name of the anime because this is not Pokemon anymore. You can give it as many negative votes as you want. I'm still going to keep posting it. My problem is not with the games. In a game, anything can happen. But Pokemon goes beyond games. What happens in the games happens in the anime, which will not make sense. I'll let you think about that one while I get some water. Go ahead and read that one again to you.
Will do. So I'm kind of lost.
So it looks like this guy's complaint is with the Pokemon anime. Now again, I want to represent all kinds of things that people were talking about with Pokemon, all kinds of issues that people had. This guy is saying that Pokemon is not the same anymore. At the end of the day, that's what he's saying. He's saying that the anime will fail to adapt the new ideas of Mega Evolution. I just don't know where they were mentally. Think that
how incompetent does he think? Does he just think they can't handle it? Like, oh, they just can't do it. They can't handle Mega.
It's not gonna work. Yeah, it's a bit gibberish, and I didn't want all the comments that I grabbed to be gibberish and obvious bad takes. But again, the point of this, people have always been disgruntled with the modern games, and by modern I mean 3DS up, right? People didn't really have problems before that. And the problems that they did have were a lot more concrete and a lot more thought out, in my opinion. Because, again, Pokemon was still going up. Gen 5 was the point where everything that Pokemon could be had been realized. They had the physical special split. They gave Pokemon abilities. They gave Pokemon hidden abilities. They gave Pokemon more easier to interpret stats. The players were growing up. They were getting smarter. That Gen 5 is when everything happened. Past Gen 5, we've hit post-modern in Pokemon. We hit the point where everything that's going on in Pokemon Pokemon can still evolve, but it's already peaked in what it can be and what the concept of the battles, trading, etc., etc. It already peaked in a lot of ways. So, comments like this, very interesting. Very interesting comments. We're going to this next one because again, this one's mostly Jim. No, Pokemon has died for me since 5th generation. Sorry, Game Freak, you failed this time. Pretty much in line with what I was just saying. Most people can agree that they hit a sweet spot with Gen 5, but there's things like the Gen 8 brought in a new way to get egg moves, for example. Gen 8 gave you the move tutor earlier on. Gen 6 introduced the EXP All, which allows players to actually play through the game without having to stop every time they want to add something new to their team, without having to grind for hours and hours on end just to just to hit a nice even team. One thing that I used to do in old Pokemon games that I can't do now in the one thing that I used to do in the old Pokemon games that I don't have to do now in the modern games, I used to start off with only 2 to 3 Pokemon at most for like half the game. Because Pokemon came at very low levels, and my Pokemon were getting a lot of experience because they were going through plenty of battles. Now I can have a whole team of 6, and they can constantly stay around the same level. They can all be swapped out and used, which will reduce the amount of EXP they're getting personally. And it just flowed a lot better. It felt more to where Pokemon needed to be, you know?
Yeah, it lets you, like you said, lets you try out, especially if there's a generation where you see a lot of new Pokemon you want to try out. It gives you the opportunity to try them out, and they won't get left behind. You can actually battle with them. You can actually do things with them. Especially back in, like, if let's say you're playing Gold, Silver, Hot Gold, Soul Silver. What if you want to train up a new team for Kanto? The first gym leader approximately like level 50 something. You're gonna have to literally grind hours on end each Pokemon to get where you need to be. Basically,
yeah.
To get where you need to be, just to use your new teammates and your team members. So yeah, that's we've groaned about the XPL and what people have to say about that constantly all the time. Anyway, you see that comment everywhere.
You're not gonna see it here because we didn't know about it at this point. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, because this was just a trailer revealing the Mega Evolution. Like a lot of other stuff later. Like this was nowhere near like the end of the cycle.
I don't even think they talked about it at all. People were probably surprised when Homegirl gives you the XP. So yeah, it gives you for everyone now. And you're like, ooh, okay.
Giant problem, guys. If you read the fine print, it says the Mega Stone will not be available during normal gameplay. So you can't get Mega Evolution unless you cheat. Stupid Pokemon. So again, Mega Blaziken was an event Pokemon. So for Mega Blaziken specifically, they stated that you cannot get the Blazikenite in gameplay. Interpret wrong. Thoughts?
Why would Game Freak, the official Game Freak Pokemon channel, put out a trailer
Or the official Pokemon channel
advocating you to cheat in their own game? What is going on?
I mean, again, people had a hard time accepting Gen 6 because 3D models, you have this new big battling mechanic, the Pokédex was a little bit smaller, used to, etc., etc. And not only that, but like everything that you grew up with has changed at that point,
Yeah.
So I don't blame this guy for being wrong. I don't blame anyone for being wrong in retrospect. But even before that, looking at that video, how can you sit there and genuinely think that they're going to just make it so that you can't have the one big thing that they're advertising? And when this guy did sit down and see that, wow, you get a Mega Lucario in the middle of the playthrough. Wow, they give you Gengarite, Alakazamite in the middle of the playthrough. I can use all these different Megas. And they probably felt pretty sad.
Yeah.
They probably felt very.
Oh, look at this.
Alright, yeah. Oops. So we're here now. First off, it's not your game. The fan base is varied and immense, and thus has to be catered as well. Second, if Pokemon were a complete series, then its strength and popularity would have waned long ago. Yet it remains extremely strong, proof that it still has concepts to explore and plan to enjoy them. Third, from what was pieced, you can only keep one Mega Pokemon on your party, so balance is still maintained. If anything, it'll force strategy changes to pro and anti-Mega users. Actually, most fans are happy and have rejoiced. As you can see, the like to dislike ratio speaks for itself. It's the Gen 1ers and the people who live in the past, which is to be expected. I think that it's cool. I mean, I bet them getting Mega Evolutions has to do with the game's theme, which is DNA, and they basically are like a new type of form. These are more positive comments, obviously.
Oh, some semblance of logic and reason.
Semblance of logic. Now, I really want to address the first guy's comments because I think what they said is exactly what we've been saying for the longest time.
It resonates with me. Very much.
You know, and this was 9 years ago, and this was our opinion 9 years ago. This was a lot of people. Most people had this opinion 9 years ago. Most people, okay? I'm not going to sit here and say that, oh, everybody hated megas when they first came out. That is true. A lot of people hated megas. A lot of people didn't want to see change. But now that we are this far into the whole one new battling mechanic a generation, what else could we ask for? What is it that truly gets people to not like Pokemon? And I have it right here. The games aren't as seemingly hard because one, the gameplay is polished, so you're not stuck with an Arcanine Flamethrower who's doing half the damage that a Charizard would be doing with it, right? You have Pokemon with good attacks, good abilities, better stats. The games aren't going to be as hard. And then on top of that, they make some of the games a bit too easy. Better graphics. We all want that. Better story, or more importance in the actual playthrough. Those are the things that people genuinely are leaving Pokemon for. Because there are actual things wrong with the games that we want to see improved. But, like this person said, there are still concepts to explore, and there are still fans who enjoy them. Completely fine not to like Pokemon. It's completely fine to say that you don't like Pokemon and have genuine reasons why. But a lot of people don't. A lot of people just don't like Pokemon. A lot of people are Gen 1ers who liked being stuck in Wrap for 50 turns and dying without ever attacking. There's people who like the fact...
stuck by Wrap. Oh, critical hits based off speed. So every time my Persian use Slash, I get a critical hit instantly. What else we have? If you're frozen, you just die straight up.
There's also the fact that Pokeballs didn't work in Gen 2. People love Gold and Silver, but they're going to completely ignore the fact that Pokeballs didn't work properly. They're going to completely ignore all the issues with Gen 2. They're going to completely ignore all the issues with Gen 3. They're going to completely ignore the fact that the Void existed in Gen 4.
Psychic types? Gen 1ers? Psychic? You like Psychic types, bro?
You want Psychic?
Come on now.
Pokemon... So, when we got to the modern age, and I had to face the fact that a lot of people didn't like Pokemon, and there was a much larger amount of people who had something to say about the game, I had to think and see and experience the games all over again. And after doing that, I know for a fact that Pokemon has never been good. It has never been polished to the point where it is perfection. Even in Gen 5, if it's not in the battle mechanics and the fact that the Weather Wars were completely unruly. I didn't play competitive at the time because Wi-Fi wasn't as simple to do as it was on the 3DS. But there you go. There's another problem right there. There's also the fact that there's a lot of content in Black and White 2 specifically that was supposed to be left just for events. So there's a lot of places you can go in that game where you're just never going to be able to experience it. And the same thing goes for all the earlier Pokemon games. There are Pokemon that people have never seen before in their games in their lives because they were all events. A lot of these events were in person, and you couldn't just go out of your way as a kid to go out across the country for a weekend and then do stuff unless your parents were very privileged. Most people's Pokemon experiences were limited, and a lot of us will never truly experience the games that we grew up with in their entirety. That's just the reality of Pokemon. Nowadays, we have the privilege of experiencing events. As you were saying, Darren?
Yeah, especially back in the day, and especially how Game Freak loved to keep events in mainly Asia. I know there's a ton of Korea and Japan exclusive events and we still have it, but especially back in the day, there's so many crazy Pokemon and things you would never get. Pokemon with different moves. I don't know. There's one of the only ways to get like Jirachi or something is through some kind of Korean event. I know through like the Gen 3 games. I think is it Celebi? Oh yeah, Jirachi you can get what was it? Hey You Pikachu or Pokemon Channel? I think it's Pokemon Channel.
Talk about DLCs. Until Let's Go and BDSP and some of these other games, Pokemon Go, you would talk about DLC. You had to purchase entire other games to get Mew. And then play them and do stuff in them. like they had legitimate paywalls, whether it be real life traveling fees or purchasing a whole video game. You used to not be able to actually get Pokemon like Mew. And now you can just simply pick it up by having a copy of Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. You can get a Mew in BDSP. I still don't have that because I didn't buy Let's Go. I've never had a Mew in my entire life. But I have the option to now. All I have to do, right, is buy Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee.
Yeah, looking at this, where I was talking about Europe and Australia versions of Pokemon Channel. If you watched every movie and got to the secret Pikachu Bros Party Panic movie, you can see Jirachi, and then you can get them in your game. So once again, not only is it game walled, but it's also only in Europe and Australia.
Wow.
So if you want a Jirachi in Gen 3,
you have to buy a European.
Sorry. Get a European copy and then play through this boring game no one cares about until you get a secret movie. And then it's always been a thing. Back then, you can say it's been way more egregious.
It's been a very egregious. Alright. Kind of lame, but it might be cool. This is a fair comment. I literally said fair, and then I fucking screenshotted it.
Fair enough.
This is a fair comment. Kind of lame, but it might be cool. That's this guy either was won over or they hate Pokemon now, one or the other.
Yeah. Oh, hello.
Now, this, somebody said a comment.
Oh, you sent this earlier.
Yeah. Somebody had a comment that said, I don't know why this guy's going off on the rating system. So I scrolled down and I found our good friend 9 years ago here.
You're gonna have to blame Mortal Kombat.
Why Pokemon X and Y is not rated E10? It should be rated E10, not everyone. Everyone is an awful ESRB rating for Pokemon X and Y. Even Peggy rates Pokemon X and Y 7. I hate everyone and Peggy 7 version of E-rated games. Everyone and Peggy 7 version of E-rated games ruined everyone. It's getting annoying. I'm sick of everyone and Peggy 7 version of E-rated games. I'm sick of ESRB nowadays. I hate everyone. Now, when I first got to that point, I'm like, oh, he should say he hates everybody. But no, it's like the everyone rating. E10, early childhood, teen are much better ESRB ratings than everyone, in my opinion.
Well, first off, that's completely wrong because everyone, E10 stands for everyone 10 and up. So he likes E10 and teen. 13 is the first age you're a teenager. This man likes the rating that just encompasses the ages of 10, 11, and 12. And then 13. Okay, what about mature? You think it should stop at teen? Like, where's mature?
Why can't I have an R-rated
no
Pokemon
game rated early childhood? There's not a single game I can think of that's rated early childhood. Unless you're playing on, like, your Leapfrog. Or your VTech. Like,
the fact that you had a response for this comment. I don't even know what I just read, bro.
10, so I like that rating. Everyone 10 and up. Which, by the way, up consists of 10 to, I guess, infinity. So it would make teen obsolete. You might as well just stop at E. E10. Just stop at E10.
Like I said on our list of absolutes when it comes to this thing, people have their own personal reasons for not liking Pokemon. I don't know if this guy likes Pokemon by this comment. I just don't know anything about this guy other than he hates rating systems that don't fit what he's thinking of. But, it's so funny to read, but that's how a lot of us have opinions. We believe in something, we care about something, and we express ourselves to each other online. And that's, good until, you get weird comments. That just don't make sense, and they just say, hey, the Pokemon franchise is just terrible, period. It was better in Gen 2, crazy shit like that. Yeah, despite what the haters / Gen 1ers want to believe, the series just keeps getting better and better. Amen. Also, notice how he has a Digimon in his profile pic. He was also trying to debunk a bunch of the Digimon BS that a lot of people were saying as well, talking about how it's different series. But yeah, I mean,
and like I said, I looked a little bit into Digivolving, and that looks like it's just what I saw. It's basically that's just the overall general term for their evolution, not just straight up a mega. Because it looks like it went from like basic, and then eventually up to like ultimate, and then their final forms are called megas. But
yeah,
like,
but that's more of an American thing. They don't. I don't think.
okay.
I'm pretty sure they don't have the term mega in the Japanese. But also, a lot of people say that Pokemon peaked in Gen 5. I say that in terms of competitive, it peaked in Gen 6. And like at that point, Pokemon stopped being better and better. Pokemon was everything that I personally liked about it. I do love Gen 8. I think that Gen 8 has a very good cast of characters, has a lot of interesting ideas. It just doesn't commit to a lot of them.
Yeah.
But I think this is the perfect time for me to say my own personal theory about how Game Freak releases Pokemon games. Pokemon's Red and Blue were always followed by Yellow. Gold and Silver were followed by Crystal. Those were on the Game Boy and the Game Boy Color respectively. And I'm pretty sure nobody will disagree that Crystal is better than Gold and Silver. Yellow was a completely different game, but the definitive versions that we got in America are better than the originals in Japan. Then we have Ruby, Sapphire. Emerald's better than Ruby and Sapphire. Fire Red and Leaf Green are about as good as Emerald. Then we go to the DS. Diamond and Pearl are not good. Platinum is better. But then Black and Black 2 are the definitive DS games. Then we move on to the 3DS, where X and Y not that great compared to ORAS. ORAS immediately blew everyone out of the water with how much they held back with X and Y. And then Sun and Moon and Ultra Sun and Moon were the apex 3DS experience. Now, we had Sword and Shield, which was their first attempt at making a main series Pokemon game on the Switch. And now we're going to get something that might be 10 times better with Gen 9, based on the trends. Pokemon games have always been test the waters first and then go all out. So until the end of the Nintendo Switch era, Pokemon games should be getting better and better. And they have, technically. Legends Arceus is already a step in the right direction. Gen 9's art style looks console ready. Whether or not people want to agree on what kind of console, it looks like we're playing Pokemon on a console properly. And not a weird hybrid between handheld and console. Yeah, what do you think? Do you think that this guy's right in saying that the series just kept getting better and better at that point?
Yeah, I mean, for me, the best game, like I said, I'm kind of a definitive peak Gen 5 guy. It's gone. It hasn't been better than Gen 5, in my opinion, but it definitely hasn't been bad. I've definitely enjoyed whatever's come along the way. Yeah. And like I said, I agree. I mentioned the other, like, one time, because we were talking about how, because when Scarlet and Violet first got revealed, there was actually a decent amount of positivity to it. And I'm like, I've said the thing, like, Sword and Shield could walk, because Scarlet Violet could run. That's literally how the Pokemon formula is. You get the base games, like, okay, let's see you, and then like, oh. And then maybe Pokemon can see what other game studios are doing with the Switch, and like, okay, now we know we can do this, testing the waters. You know, oh, we can do this now. We can do this now. So it's constantly going to evolve and give us new things to do.
Yeah, we went from the wild area to now we're gonna have full co-op in Pokemon for the first time. And yeah. I'm really looking forward to seeing how far they go.